Hello and welcome back to Five Things Friday. Now, Laura and I, again, let's do an introduction because you may have not watched last week. You may have never watched the retail podcast. You're thinking, who is this person? And who is Laura? So I'm Alex. I'm from the retail podcast.
Hi, I'm Laura. I'm a Scottish lassie and I am based out in Australia and I'm a technology advisor to mid-market and enterprise brands.
What we're going to do is look at five things that we have experienced or are top of our minds over the last 5 days. I've been in the UK in London at the World Retail Congress. If you don't know the World Retail Congress, it's where CEOs go to learn. So it's an incredibly, sort of boutique conference. It was in London's Park Lane, so very exclusive. It's for board members, it's for CEOs, and it's CEOs present, and it's CEOs across the world. And every year it's in a different location. So I think it's been Madrid, Rome, Paris, and London. And next year will be in Berlin. But let me get into what was really interesting. So one of the CEOs that was, I thought, I think he was the closing talk on the last day. And tough gig because a bunch of executives they all want to get back out, check their emails. So I think it was a difficult slot to fill, but he did a great job. And he is now the CEO of Morrisons, which was a struggling UK supermarket grocer. But he's ex-CEO of Carrefour, which is a massive European and LATAM grocer. So they're 5 billion, I think, market cap or more, really big. But the reason I've gone with him, he spoke about something called, so basically, whatever sport, football, Aussie rules football, UK football, American football, he's the guy that comes in when you're not performing, when your team's like at the bottom of the division and they need to go up. Apparently, he's the guy you call. And the reason you call him is that he has a strategy called, and I don't know if he created it, but he created it did I don't know, McKinsey or BCG or someone come in and give it to him. But anyway, he's claiming this as his own. And it's the 555 principle, which is focused on three pillars: trust, service, and experience, or shopping experience. And why five? Because and he said this. He wants his executives, his shop floor, his head office staff to be able to put one hand up and say, the top five things that they're focused on at any one time. And I'll just quickly run through within that what they are. So, for example, how do you create trust? He's always about, the price has to be clear and accurate. In the fruit aisles, the vegetables always have to be fresh and have flavor, which is crazy that we're saying that, but anyway, not all fruit and vegetable is fresh and tasty. Private label, right, has to be showcased as best in the market rather than as cheap alternatives or cheap basics, right? So there's always that premium. Whether you call it premiumization. Promotions have to be clear, so they don't run out of stock. E-commerce deliveries have to be pickup. So, you have to have e-commerce deliveries, which I think most grocers do now. And pickups are quick and complete. I'm not going to do that. Was on trust. I mean, you can I think you can Google it in terms of the 5 elements for trust, service, and shopping experience. But from all early indications, it's working for Morrisons. Is it a turnaround? I think it's too quick to call it. But I just thought really interesting. I actually saw him twice. He's because he's French. I also saw him speaking at the French embassy at NRF. And it feels like he's a CEO going places. And I really loved his sort of really simple methodology of 555, and it seems to have worked at 2 grocers. The other one that was interesting was a sort of panel conversation that, for all intents and purposes, had some senior people in there about the big thing, why inclusive leadership matters. Because with everything that let's be honest, all the politics that's happening in the US, are we drifting back to an agenda that was very alienating and isolating? But it feels like, especially in the UK, the retailers are saying, hey, and I think this was part of the 555 actually. Oh, no, it wasn't. You have to have a representative, and it seems really simple, but you have to have a representative of your customer base within your board or within your chief exec group. And, whether or not that's true or not, because still something like 80% of women's clothes are made by men or are made by businesses that have male orientated boardrooms, making decisions on what's best for the whole inclusive realm. I thought it was an interesting article, and when I did my write up on it, it got quite a good. It was quite well received, and then I've put all of the there's like all of the takeaways that are in there. How many were there? I mean, it was a cracking old talk. There was 15 points that I took away in terms of data should inform, not define talent strategy. But the best one I loved was the fact that a lot of boardroom decisions, or when they're thinking about who we're going to recruit into senior positions, they're looking at experience rather than potential in the majority of cases, not all cases, but in the majority of cases. And so, you really need to look at people's potential. And then the one thing that I think I probably suffered through my whole career, because I did it so poorly, is getting a sponsor, right? Getting someone in the business who can sponsor you. Who I just was really naive to that, because no one had ever told me, right? And so I can imagine, and all of them were sort of agreeing, you need someone in your business. Actually, once someone said to me, you need two people from two parts of the business who will fight your corner when senior directors are making, or business leaders are making decisions on who's going to lead the business. And so anyway, I'm one for empowerment and equality across all groups, not just gender. But the one reason why gender comes in, let's get one thing right, and then worry about getting, if there's still, 1 in 10 recruits in the UK were female, we still need to get to parity, then look at how we create that. So that was for me really interesting. And then because I've spent so much time interviewing female leaders and asking them, what advice would you give yourself when you're younger? And most of them say, I wish I had a voice earlier on in my life. I wish I didn't listen to the voice in my head that kept telling me that I didn't have permission to speak in meetings. And then I said, I find it really difficult as a bloke because, you don't want to be seen as pandering, like, oh, you poor thing. But ultimately, you're well aware that there's a disparity, right? So you're aware that there's something not right, but you're like, how do you sensitively approach the subject without being patronizing? And the thing that I think most men are really, I think the younger generation rather than my generation, is it mansplaining? Is that the term? Yeah. Am I mansplaining, right? And I'm like, oh man, seriously, they've even created a word for when men are sort of talk down to women. And I was like, oh, okay, all right. I can't fix it, but I can definitely say, hey, look, it's not right. It's like all things. I want a world that is good for my kids. And anyway, it was a really good talk, and I felt, as you said, it was. It wasn't. Thank God, it wasn't 5 men talking about diversity, right? Or it wasn't like a really a closed group. It was like the female leaders, all of them, thing, and it's something that also women very rarely support each other in business as well, and so that's another thing. But anyway, I don't want to focus on that too much, as in another thing. The other two things, we are like a week or 2 weeks away from Shop Talk. I just interviewed Ben Miller, who is head of content, and so that
Content.
I'll hopefully get that out
Amazing.
there, and it was really
Hmm.
good. Shop Talk Europe lined up to be a phenomenal talk. If you go, there is a CDO from LVMH, and I forget the lady's name. She is awesome. She will, for me, I mean, that will be the highlight keynote because I saw her at Web Summit and she was phenomenal. So if you're at Shop Talk Europe, make sure you go to that talk. It was phenomenal. And then I will be at Shop Talk for a day, and then I will also be at NRF Asia with our good friend Reef. Um, Again, if there's one talk you go to, it's got to be the one that I'm
Yeah.
hosting with the COO of Family Mart. Oh my God, what an incredible man. But anyway, Laura, why don't you take us through your top two?
Okay, cool. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is Shein. A couple of weeks ago, I was reading the Australian Financial Report Review, the Australian Financial Review, and it reported that Shein has clocked about 12 billion in Aussie sales in the last year. So that was up to December 2024. It's up significantly on the year before, up by like 980 million on the year prior. So, and they only entered this market in 2022. Now, to put that in context, because I know a lot of people maybe listening are from the UK and the US, so we've got about 28 million people population in Australia. We have the group called the Accent Group, so they have multiple brands in their portfolio. They have about 900 stores across Australia, and they've been around for a long, long time. Their brands and their sales are sitting at 1.6 billion. So you've got someone like Shein who's in what 3 years they're a pure play and they're doing 1.2 billion. So it's pretty crazy. And listen, it touches on a few points, right? Like someone I posted about this and someone called it digital hypnosis. You could call it they're really mastering that demand. They're definitely putting a lot of money into the sponsored ads on Google. They're everywhere, and they're building aggressively building out that influencer strategy. But I think for me, in this market, we've made a wee bit of noise, and I know there's definitely some retail bodies quite concerned about it. But as in the most recent, what Trump has done on the tariffs, the de minimis was at $800, right? So you didn't really pay anything when it was if it was under $800, you were exempt.
Hey, is dividend tariff? Is
Yes.
that
Yeah.
okay? Is that
So
like the proper way of saying tariff?
yeah, like it's like, well, you're not going to pay. You didn't pay anything, right, on that product if it was under $800. They've so basically, if you were selling to the US, you could do it, and unless it's high luxury, you didn't have to have that tax. You weren't hitting that tax threshold. Now they've reduced that to zero, right? Which basically means even if you sell something at $30 into the US, you're going to get hit with you have to make a payment, right? So the challenge is now the likes of Shein and Temu are going to focus on other markets, right? So little old Australia is probably going to get targeted, right, more aggressively from these kind of massive, you know, dominant forces of the Sheins and the Temu. So yeah, I think it's just something that is it's almost like watch what customers do, not what they say. Has been a lot of noise from the past before this report was announced that our customers want more quality. They're going to support the Australian brands. It's not really true. Whether that be cost of living, they're doing what's best for them, and with respect to that, there's a lot of like we're in a cost of living crisis, right? Like it's very expensive out here for a home, and it's a challenge. So but it's very much happening, and when you could just put it on the comparison of that big accent group, it's pretty significant. So that is the first one. Probably it touches on a little bit of a point of that loyalty, right? Loyalty is um loyalty is really not real. Loyalty's changed, and you have to give the customer what they want. So they're definitely bringing that experience. They're bringing that gamification, and yeah, like that's how they're building that loyalty. And the customer demographic is so crazily skewed. This is getting, you're getting the boomers, you're getting the millennials, and you're getting the young in. So yeah, Shein, first one. I think it's just the way they can do things, the speed to market, the way they can innovate is just second to none, right? It's significant in 3 years what they've done. The other one is actually a little bit. It's
Okay.
actually marketplaces. My second one. So when I talk to, when I work with a lot of retailers, talk to some boards, everyone's looking at growth strategies. And it's almost like I came from
Yeah.
eBay. eBay sponsored me to come over to Australia.
Yeah.
I know marketplaces pretty well. So when I hear this, I kind of go, oh, what? Aren't we there yet? But I think it's really interesting that, yeah, I think
Yeah.
marketplaces are where the customer is at. Not all marketplaces are equal. We all know that there was a surgence of everyone was a marketplace. Doesn't work. I think the
Yeah.
main one being, let's talk about Amazon, massive. I think the last thing I heard, which is probably hopefully not more than this, but it was like 60 cents to the dollar and online sales were spent via Amazon in the US. Crazy. So if you're
Yeah.
really looking for demand creation,
Yeah.
you've got to go where the customers are, and they're on Amazon. So locally, I definitely see locally and globally, Amazon's definitely back
Yeah.
on the table as a growth a strategy. One for getting going to the USA, like getting into the American market, using a partner to get there, and locally as well. If they're not on it, they should be. It is the highest, the traffic is the
Yeah.
highest to it's stealth in Australia. It's been a lot.
Yeah.
It's took a lot longer to get where they're at. Still got a way to go. So they've been a bit of a creeper, but they're the number one trafficked commerce site in this market.
I mean, what's really interesting? I was listening to the CEO of Saks of Fifth, which is like Neiman
Yeah,
Marcus, Barney's. It's like a whole bunch of department stores in the US that have just all come together, and their joint venture is them, Amazon and
yeah.
Salesforce in luxury, where it's exactly what you're saying in the sense that everyone complained, and it's so funny. These CEOs, they were going, "We know that Amazon." I was like, "Really? Amazon's going to be the place where you go to buy luxury?" And I was like, "Well,
It's
anyway."
yeah.
But what was interesting is,
No, like
go on,
I
Laura.
seen what they're doing, right. So they've tried to break luxury for a while, and now they're going back again to do it, and they're being more. They're definitely determined. I think it's like I even seen another one. Someone posted about a bike brand called Canyon that sell $3,000 plus
Okay.
bikes, and they've got a storefront. And the conversation was interesting. Like some people were going, "Oh, it'll be brand damaging," and you're like, "Well, they're holding tight on the price point, right? The eyeballs are there." And you're giving them
Yeah.
choice. If they want to buy through Amazon, if people like and they like Prime and they like to use it, let them do it. If they come to your website and you offer a different service and they're and they want to come there, you will acquire customers that way too. But they are
Yeah.
it's weird. I've been thinking about this for a while, and then in the last week I noticed the Saks play. So they're trying to go more luxury, and as well, I think the difference is this time they're trying to not be a discount luxury retailer. They're trying, they're all, so they
Yeah.
could arguably be seen to be supporting businesses. But again, they're a frenemy. You need a strategy. You need to know when to, what's that song? You got to know when to hold them, know when to roll them, when to walk away, know when to run.
Yeah.
Is you
Yeah.
cannot go in blind to, but you could argue,
They don't put you
I know
down as a
I like
country
that,
music lover,
but
Kenny
you could
Rogers.
argue that there's not much difference between a marketplace to TikTok and Instagram now, right? They're all
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, it's your social. It forms part of your
yeah,
social strategy, right? So if you've got a social strategy, what is that marketplace? I mean, just going back to the Saks thing, Amazon is saying, or sorry, Saks are saying that they will wall off the Saks environment within the Amazon world. So you're getting this truly exclusive Amazon where you're not going to get all of these other products coming into your feed. It
Luxury.
is just
Yeah.
the Saks feed, but fulfilled by Amazon, which I was like, okay, all right, let's see. Is this a Shopify? Are they creating now shop
Is it
windows into
was
walled
it is it
areas within
Salesforce
Amazon
partnership? Is it? Yeah. Yeah.
as well? Yeah.
Yeah. No. Like there's definitely something in it. Like I think eBay when I was there, what, 15 years ago, tried to break into fashion. They all want to win in this fashion. And this is now going to be probably third time round. And I think it's just finding the right approach to it, right? But the customers, you need, what do we say? Like we talk about that omni-channel strategy is be where the customer's at. Go on Amazon whether you like it or not.
Was there anything that you wanted? I know we've done our top five. Is there anything you wanted to add um, as like a cheeky fifth?
No, I think that's us done five, and
Not
it's called
six.
Five Things Friday. So I'll hold my other one for
Okay.
next week.
All right.